Hey everyone, Adam here. Come and join me in my adventure through various parts of Queensland located in Australia. Whether you're looking to travel for inspiration for your own trip or just want to see what I got up to, I've got you covered. As usual, I departed London flying with one of my favourite airlines, China Airlines, direct to Taipei with a 5-hour layover. Just enough time to leave the airport, travel to Mitsu Outlet Park for some food and shopping, before heading back to my flight onwards to Brisbane. The London to Taipei leg was 12 hours, with the Taipei to Brisbane leg clocking in at just over 7 hours. What's not shown in the video is that I left the airport and spent a few days with friends and family. However, the trip began again once I headed to Brisbane Domestic Airport, which is a short free train ride away from the international airport before boarding another flight to the Whitsunday. I chose the Whitsundays as I've never been, and it's the most southern point of the Great Barrier Reef. However, it's one of the most touristic spots in Queensland once you're out in the water. I booked a last minute flight 4 days prior, which costed me 99 Australian dollars or around 55 British pounds, 60 euros or 60 American dollars. This was also a one-way flight, as I wanted to experience what the train trip here is for my return journey. Return flights were ranging from about 140 to 170 Australian dollars with the last minute booking. However, if you book earlier, you'll definitely find cheaper tickets. As I travelled here within the first week of March, it was the end of the rainy season. However, weather here was extremely unpredictable, and according to locals, the Whitsunday Islands have their own unique seasons, so the cruises were only running based on the weather predictions of that morning. Due to this, every morning I woke up I had to await news on whether the cruise was going, and each day went by with them being cancelled, so I roamed around Airlie Beach and its surroundings while I waited. Cannon Vale Beach is the best location in Airlie Beach to view a sunset, and there's a lovely waterfront walk and hiking around the area. On my final day in Airlie Beach, I gave up and I was just preparing to head back to Brisbane. However, I was alerted that the cruise was going ahead that day and they had a shuttle bus pick me up from my hotel to Shute Harbour. The weather wasn't super amazing and it was raining for small parts of the cruise over to the Whitsunday Islands. However, once we got to Whitehaven Beach, the sun was out and shining brightly. We made a small hike up to the South Whitehaven lookout. This is quite an easy hike with dirt tracks and stairs carved out, and took around 35-minute round trip. Depending on which cruise company you went with, you may or may not have time to complete this hike and enjoy the beach itself. Cruises range from 1 hour on the beach up to 6 hours, so best to choose a cruise with a timetable to suit you. After departing Whitehaven Beach, our cruise headed to the Hill Inlet Lookout, which overlooks the whole of Whitehaven Beach from a different angle. And for those who have a keen eye and have seen the latest Pirates of the Caribbean movie, you'll notice the areas of beach they filmed on. The sands of the Whitsunday surprisingly are also under strict protection by the government, and it's illegal to remove any sand from this region. Some of the telescopes designed by NASA and the space station equipment is constructed using certain particles found only within the sands on these beaches. Following a long and successful day on the cruise, it was time to head back to Brisbane, but this time taking the Spirit of Queensland train from Proserpine Station. If you don't want to pay $22 for a shuttle bus to take you directly to the station, you can take a local bus for $5. However, this has very limited services to Proserpine, and also doesn't stop directly at the station but rather a 10-minute walk away. The train seats were quite large and comfortable with plenty of legroom and space for luggage. Unfortunately, my trip was tainted quite a lot by locals who thought it was appropriate to get off at every single train station to have a smoke before boarding back on and making the entire carriage smell. not my kind of experience that I would have liked. A one-way train ticket on the Spirit of Queensland cost $250, which far exceeds the cost of taking a plane. Overall, while the train journey could be a nice alternative to a flight, my recommendation is to pay less money and take a plane, also saving 11 hours of your time and a far shorter amount of time and discomfort. After a long 12-hour night journey on the train, we arrived in Brisbane Roma Street, where the adventures around Story Bridge, South Bank and Queen Street Mall had begun. Queen Street Mall is the main shopping and restaurant street of the Brisbane CBD. However, the main site to enjoy is South Bank, across the river to the south of the city, which contains a man-made beach and swimming area, nature walks through man-made forests, a museum with free entry, and science museum, and more. There are also several stops where you can catch a City Cat ferry, some of which are free over the famous Story Bridge and other locations around Brisbane. Once finished with the inner city, I caught the 471 bus to Mount Coot-tha. Although I got off at the Botanical Gardens first and hiked up to the lookout, I highly recommend that you stay on the bus all the way to the lookout and hike down the hill to the Botanical Gardens. From the lookout you can see the city in the backdrop. The bus ride up here will cost you around $4. If you want to hike to the Botanical Gardens, the trail starts opposite the bus stop. It leads you straight to the gardens at the bottom. And these gardens are not to be missed, some of them, especially the Japanese garden Tropical Dome and the Australian Plants Trail, which brings a tropical Australian rainforest right within reach of Brisbane. You can easily spend half a day or longer here enjoying your time, although I only spent 3 hours for both the lookout and the gardens. After the hustle and bustle of Brisbane, for my last couple of days I wanted to visit the Gold Coast, although one of the days a friend's car broke down on the motorway halfway down, and that caused me to spend the entire day on the side of the motorway, losing a day of exploring. This left me with a single day left, and ultimately I chose to avoid the beaches of the Gold Coast and instead visit the Gold Coast Hinterland and mountain ranges on the state borders. There's two main national parks, Lamington National Park and Springbrook National Park, both absolutely stunning. For this video I chose Springbrook National Park, starting off with Hinds Dam, which is a large lake and lookout points across the mountains. If you decide to take a boat you can use this, however strictly no swimming is allowed because at the end there is a dam and things could happen. "20 minutes down the road you'll reach Purling Brook Falls, which is an additional 15-minute hike to reach the top lookout point of the waterfall, and another 40 minutes or so hike to reach the base of the waterfall, both of which are well worth the hike. I'd recommend going clockwise as it's all downstairs, with the way back gradually following a ramp back to the top. Be careful though, these stairs in the rain were extremely slippery. "10 minutes drive down from the waterfall you'll reach the best of all lookout, which is situated exactly on the border between the states of Queensland and New South Wales, and features ancient trees and a spectacular view of the entire mountain range. Obviously the day I went it was raining, so the entire view was covered in fog, but here's a photo from Google Maps on what it actually looks like. Maybe you'll have better luck than me. I was going to call it quits after the foggy view and the sunlight disappearing rapidly, however I saw a sign which stated Glowworm Cave at the natural bridge, which was on the way back to Brisbane anyway, and I decided to go. I'd have to say I was thoroughly surprised at the natural bridge and the glowworm cave. It's a very short 10-minute hike to the base of the waterfall which flows into a cave, and the cave roof is covered in glowworms that turn on, so to speak, at sunset. The camera couldn't pick any of it up, but the entire roof of the cave glowed up and it was incredible. I tried to take a photo and the flash was accidentally on, whereby a load of bats went insane and attacked me, and I ended up running out of the cave scared, so make sure your flash is off before you go into the cave. There's also an off branch of the main route which leads to a lookout point above the cave where the waterfall flows into the cave. I would have to say that the natural bridge was probably the best part of this entire trip for me, even better than the Whitsunday Islands. And that's everything I undertook during my trip to Queensland. There are way too many things to fit into a 2-week trip, and I would have liked to have seen a lot more, but hopefully I've shown you a few places that can give you some ideas for your own trip that aren't too well covered by other creators. Breaking down the cost of my trip, accommodation cost a total of £300 for both Brisbane and Airlie Beach. Food, including shopping and restaurants, was about £170. Public transport, which includes the cost of buses and trains in both Brisbane and Airlie Beach, as well as the Flight and Spirit of Queensland train to and from the Whitsundays, was a total of £140 roughly. Car hire, including petrol for 2 days, was £82. Attractions costed £212, which includes the cost of the cruise around the Whitsundays, and the SIM card for the whole trip was £19, coming to a total of £926. This of course does not include the cost of my flight from London to Brisbane. I have listed the costs in other currencies on screen based on the prices I paid at the time of my trip. To wrap this up, many thanks go towards my friends Adam and Owen, as well as my mum and sister for helping out in the creation of this video and just providing me company during some of my days. You all made this trip more memorable. If this video was of any help towards planning your future Queensland trip, or you just enjoyed watching along, I'd appreciate a like and any comments on the video to help my channel grow, and if you're up to it, even subscribing. It costs nothing to you and helps me out immensely. If you have any questions about the video or recommendations, post them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I do respond to every single person who comments. Many thanks and see you next time.